I'm ashamed of what I'm about to tell you now. I kissed my son-in-law and more without my daughter knowing. I never imagined my life would take such a dramatic turn at 55. I always considered myself a conservative woman, devoted to my family and with solid principles. But what happened in recent months turned my world upside down and made me question everything I thought I knew about myself. My daughter Sarah had been married for 3 years to Jack, a successful lawyer who seemed to be the perfect son-in-law. They both lived in the apartment upstairs from my house, which gave me peace of mind since I could be close to them, or at least that's what I thought. It all started on a summer night. The heat was stifling and I had the windows open trying to fall asleep. Suddenly, I heard angry voices coming from upstairs. It was Sarah arguing heatedly with Jack. I couldn't make out exactly what they were saying, but the tone was one of anger and frustration. I worried, as I had never heard them fight like that before. The next day, during breakfast, I noticed Sarah was quiet and had dark circles under her eyes. When Jack left for work, I approached her. "Honey, is everything okay? I heard you arguing last night." Sarah sighed deeply before answering, "Oh, Mum, things with Jack haven't been good lately. We have some problems, but we're trying to solve them. Do you want to talk about it? You know you can count on me for anything." "I appreciate it, Mum, but for now I'd rather not go into details. It'll pass." Respecting her privacy, I didn't push further. However, something in her eyes told me the situation was more serious than she wanted to admit. From that moment on, I started paying more attention to the interactions between Sarah and Jack. I noticed some tension between them, cold looks and forced conversations. They no longer held hands or kissed like before. Something definitely wasn't right in that marriage. One morning, while Sarah had already gone to work, I was in my room getting ready to go out. Suddenly, I felt a presence behind me. It was Jack, standing in the doorway with an expression I couldn't decipher. "Good morning, mother-in-law. How did you sleep?" His tone of voice was different from usual, deeper and more seductive. A shiver ran down my spine. "Good morning, Jack. Fine, thank you. Do you need something?" He approached slowly with a half smile on his face. "Actually, yes, I've noticed you've been watching me a lot lately. Is there something worrying you? Or maybe something that interests you?" His closeness made me nervous. I could smell his cologne and feel the heat emanating from his body. I don't know what you mean, Jack. I just worry about you two. It's normal." He took another step further, shortening the distance between us. His gaze traveled up and down my body, lingering in certain places. "Come on, Emily. Don't play innocent. I know you want me as much as I want you. We could help each other out, you know? I could give you what Sarah can't anymore." His words left me frozen. Was my son-in-law actually proposing an affair? My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, I felt deep indignation at such a proposal. How dare he insinuate such a thing? He was my daughter's husband, for God's sake. But on the other hand, I couldn't deny that Jack was a very attractive man. At 35, he had an enviable physique and an imposing presence, and worst of all, he was right. I had been watching him more than I should lately. "Jack, this is wrong, very wrong. You'd better leave right now." My voice trembled as I said those words. He smiled as if confirming his suspicions. "Whatever you say, Emily, but think about it. We could have a really good time together. You know where to find me if you change your mind." And with that, he left my room, leaving me completely confused and upset. The following days were absolute torture. I couldn't stop thinking about that encounter with Jack. Every time I saw him, I remembered his words, his look full of desire. I felt dirty and guilty for even considering the idea Sarah was my daughter, my blood. I could never do something like that to her. But at the same time, I couldn't deny the attraction I felt. It had been years since I felt desired that way. My husband had passed away a decade ago, and since then I hadn't been intimate with anyone. Jack had awakened sensations I thought forgotten. The tension in the house was palpable. Sarah and Jack barely spoke to each other. I avoided being alone with him, fearing what might happen, but his furtive glances and knowing smiles haunted me. One night, I heard another argument upstairs. This time I could make out some phrases. I can't take this situation anymore, Jack. If things don't change, I think we should separate. Oh yeah? And where would you go? Back to Mommy? Don't be ridiculous, Sarah. I'd prefer that to continuing to live this lie. Then there was silence. My heart was racing. Was my daughter considering divorce? What had happened to that marriage that seemed so perfect? The next day, Sarah left early for work without breakfast. Jack came down later, looking grumpy. I couldn't contain myself and confronted him. Jack, what's going on between you two? I heard you arguing last night. He looked at me intently before answering. Ask your daughter. She's the one with the problem. What do you mean? He approached dangerously close to me. Sarah doesn't satisfy me anymore, Emily. I need a real woman, one who knows what she wants. Someone like you. His hand gently caressed my cheek. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Part of me wanted to push him away, slap him for even suggesting such a thing. But another part, one I thought long asleep, craved his touch. This is wrong, Jack, very wrong. Do you really think so, or is that what you've been made to believe all your life? Come on, Emily, let yourself go for once. His lips brushed against mine, and I felt like I was melting. It had been so long since I had experienced that desire, that passion. But just when I was about to succumb, the image of Sarah appeared in my mind. My daughter, my baby. I couldn't do this to her. I pulled away abruptly. No, Jack, this can't be. Please don't try again. I quickly left the kitchen with my heart racing and legs shaking. What was I getting myself into? I needed to distance myself, clear my thoughts. I decided to go visit my sister in another city for a few days. I needed to get away from that toxic situation and analyze things calmly. I told Sarah I was taking a little vacation, to which she didn't object. In fact, she seemed relieved that I was leaving for a while. The days with my sister helped me put things in perspective. I told her everything that was happening, omitting the more sordid details. Of course, she advised me to talk seriously with Sarah and offer her my unconditional support. She also suggested seeking professional help, maybe couples therapy. I returned home with clearer ideas and determined to face the situation. However, nothing prepared me for what I found when I arrived. The house was silent. I went up the stairs to Sarah and Jack's apartment, and what I saw left me frozen. Clothes thrown everywhere, empty alcohol bottles, overflowing ashtrays. What the hell had happened in my absence? I found Sarah asleep on the couch, with clear signs of having been crying. I gently woke her up. Honey, what happened? Where's Jack? She looked at me with swollen red eyes. He's gone, Mum. He left me. My world crumbled in that instant. I hugged my daughter tightly as she sobbed on my shoulder. All my doubts and internal conflicts vanished. The only thing that mattered was comforting my little girl. Little by little, between tears, Sarah told me the whole truth. Jack had been cheating on her for months with a co-worker. She had discovered it a few weeks ago, hence the arguments. He had promised to end the affair, but apparently he didn't keep his word. The worst thing, Mum, is that I think I'm pregnant. Those words were like a bucket of cold water. My poor daughter, betrayed and abandoned, possibly expecting a child, rage invaded me. How could I even consider having something with that scoundrel? The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I accompanied Sarah to the doctor, who confirmed the pregnancy. She was 6 weeks along. We called Jack to inform him, but he was indifferent. He said he would think about it and contact us later. Sarah was devastated. I was torn between worry for her and guilt for having fantasized about her husband. What kind of mother was I? My story isn't over yet. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks. Back to the story. Weeks passed and we heard nothing from Jack. Sarah decided to go ahead with the pregnancy, with or without him. I supported her every step of the way, determined to compensate for my impure thoughts by being the best mother and grandmother possible. One afternoon, while Sarah was resting, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I found myself face to face with Jack. He looked haggard, with several days' stubble and pronounced dark circles under his eyes. "Emily, I need to talk to you." I let him in, more out of curiosity than courtesy. We sat in the living room and he began to speak. "I know you must hate me. I deserve it. I was an idiot, a coward. I hurt Sarah in the worst possible way. And you're just realizing this now, after abandoning her while pregnant?" He lowered his gaze in shame. I know I have no excuse. But I've been thinking a lot these days about my life, my decisions, and I realized something important." I looked at him expectantly, not knowing what to expect. "Emily, you're the woman I truly love," and his words left me breathless. Had I heard correctly? "What are you saying, Jack? Have you gone crazy?" "Maybe I have. But it's the truth. I've felt something for you for a long time. I tried to deny it, repress it. That's why I sought comfort in other women, but I can't keep lying to myself." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Part of me wanted to slap him for his audacity. Another part, deep down, felt flattered and excited, but I quickly suppressed those feelings. "Jack, this is madness. I'm your wife's mother, the mother of your future child. You can't just come here and declare your love for me." He came closer, taking my hands in his. "I know, Emily. I know it sounds crazy, but it's how I feel with you. I feel complete, at peace. You're the woman I've always been looking for." For a moment, I allowed myself to imagine what it would be like. A life with Jack, waking up every morning in his arms. But then reality hit me hard. How could I do that to my own daughter? "Jack, listen to me carefully. What you're saying is impossible. Never, ever could I be with you. I love my daughter more than anything in this world, and I'm not going to betray her like that. If you really want to do the right thing, go back to Sarah. Be a good husband and father to your child." I saw disappointment in his eyes, but also a glimmer of understanding. He nodded slowly. "You're right, Emily. I was a fool to think this could work. Sarah and my child need me. I'll try to fix things with her, if she'll still have me." At that moment, we heard footsteps on the stairs. Sarah appeared, her eyes wide open in surprise at seeing Jack. "What are you doing here?" Jack stood up, approaching her cautiously. "Sarah, I came to ask for your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try to fix things for you and for our child." Sarah looked at me, searching for some sign. I nodded slightly, encouraging her to listen to him. "Why should I believe you? You cheated on me. You abandoned me." "I know, and I have no excuse for that. I was a coward and an idiot. But these days away from you made me realize how much I love you. If you give me another chance, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and being the best husband and father I can be." I saw tears in Sarah's eyes. I knew she still loved Jack, despite all the pain he had caused her. I saw her hesitate, internally debating between love and resentment. "I don't know if I can trust you again, Jack. You hurt me a lot." He moved closer, gently taking her hands. "I know, my love, and I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I'm just asking for a chance to show you that I've changed, that I want to be better for you and our baby." Sarah looked at me again, as if seeking advice. I nodded slightly. Despite everything that had happened, I knew my daughter would be happier if they could rebuild their marriage. "Okay, Jack, we can try, but on one condition. We'll go to couples therapy. We need professional help to get through this." I saw relief on Jack's face. "Of course, my love. I'll do whatever it takes to get you back." They hugged, and I couldn't help but let a tear escape. Seeing them like this made me happy, but at the same time I felt a twinge of jealousy, regret. I couldn't exactly identify what that feeling was. The following days were about adjustment for everyone. Jack moved back home and they started couples therapy. I tried to keep my distance, give them their space, but it wasn't easy. Every time I saw them together, I remembered Jack's words, his declaration of love for me. I felt guilty for even thinking about it. One afternoon, while Sarah had gone to a medical appointment, I found myself alone with Jack in the kitchen. The atmosphere felt tense, charged with unspoken words. Emily, I wanted to thank you for everything, for supporting Sarah, for giving me another chance. I looked at him, trying to maintain my composure. I'm doing it for her, Jack, not for you. He nodded, moving a little closer. I know you're a great mother. It's one of the things I admire most about you. His closeness made me nervous. I could feel the heat emanating from his body, smell his cologne. All the feelings I had tried to repress threatened to surface. Jack, please don't make this harder. Make what harder, Emily? I'm just being honest. You know very well what I mean. What you said the other day, we can't. He sighed deeply. You're right, I'm sorry. It's just that sometimes I wonder what would have happened if things were different. If I had met you before. But it wasn't like that. Jack, you're my daughter's husband, the father of my grandchild. That's all that matters now. We remained silent for a moment, the tension palpable between us. Finally, Jack spoke again. You're right, Emily. I love Sarah and I want this to work. I promise I won't mention my feelings for you again. It'll be our secret. I nodded, relieved but with a strange sense of loss. Thank you, Jack. It's best for everyone. At that moment, we heard the front door open. Sarah had returned from her medical appointment. Jack and I quickly separated, as if we had been caught doing something improper. Hello, family. Guess what? It's a girl. The excitement in Sarah's voice dissipated all the previous tension. Jack ran to hug her, genuinely happy about the news. I joined the hug, feeling a mix of joy and guilt. The following months passed in a blur of preparations for the baby's arrival. Sarah and Jack seemed to be rebuilding their relationship little by little. The therapy was helping and I saw them closer each day. I kept myself busy helping with the baby's room arrangements and buying everything necessary for my future granddaughter. However, in moments of calm, I couldn't help but let my mind wander. I wondered what my life would be like if I had given in to temptation with Jack. Would I be happy? Or would guilt consume me? I tried to push those thoughts away, focusing on being the best mother and future grandmother possible. One night, while everyone was sleeping, I went down to the kitchen for a glass of water. To my surprise, Jack was there, sitting in the dark. Can't sleep? I asked, turning on the light. He looked at me with tired eyes. No, too many things on my mind. I sat across from him, curious. Do you want to talk about it? Jack sighed deeply before answering. It's just that sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. If I can really be the husband and father that Sarah and the baby deserve. His honesty took me by surprise. Jack, the fact that you're worried about that already shows that you're on the right path. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and strive to be better every day. He looked at me with a mixture of gratitude and something else I couldn't decipher. Thank you, Emily. I don't know what I'd do without you. You're amazing. For a moment, the air between us was charged with electricity. I could feel the attraction, the unexpressed desire, but we both knew we couldn't cross that line. Jack, I think you should go back to bed. Sarah might worry if she wakes up and doesn't find you. He nodded, slowly, standing up. Before leaving the kitchen, he stopped and looked at me intensely. Emily, do you ever regret it, not having? He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood perfectly what he was referring to. I took a moment before answering. Sometimes I wonder, Jack. But then I see Sarah. I see how happy she is with you and the baby on the way, and I know we made the right decision. Some things just aren't meant to be. I saw a mix of emotions cross his face before he nodded slightly. You're right. Good night, Emily. Good night, Jack. I watched him go up the stairs and disappear into the darkness. I stayed in the kitchen a while longer, reflecting on our conversation. I knew there would always be a part of me that would wonder, what if? But I was at peace with my decision. The love I felt for my daughter and my future granddaughter was stronger than any forbidden attraction or desire. The months flew by, and finally the big day arrived. Sarah went into labor one spring afternoon. Jack and I quickly took her to the hospital, nervous and excited. After several hours of labor, we finally heard the most beautiful cry in the world. Lily had arrived, perfect and healthy. When they put her in Sarah's arms, I saw tears of happiness in everyone's eyes. Jack kissed Sarah's forehead and gently caressed his daughter's little head. "Thank you, my love, you've given me the most beautiful gift in the world." Sarah looked at him with love. "We're a family, Jack, you, me, and our little Lily." At that moment, I felt that everything was in its place. All the conflicts, the doubts, the confused feelings, everything vanished before the image of my daughter and her family. I knew I had made the right decision by not giving in to temptation with Jack. The days and weeks that followed were a whirlwind of diapers, bottles, and sleepless nights. But they were also filled with laughter, love, and unforgettable moments. Seeing Jack as a father made me realize that he had really changed. He was attentive, loving, and completely dedicated to his family. One afternoon, while Sarah was resting, I found myself alone with Jack in the living room. He was cradling Lily, softly singing to her. The scene filled me with indescribable tenderness. "You're a great father, Jack," I said quietly, so as not to wake the baby. He looked at me with a tired but happy smile. "Thank you, Emily. I'm trying to do the best I can." I sat next to him, watching my granddaughter sleep peacefully. "You're doing very well. Sarah is very happy." Jack nodded, his gaze lost in Lily's angelic face. "You know I never properly thanked you." "Thank me? For what?" "For preventing me from making the biggest mistake of my life. If you had given in that time, I would have lost all this. My family, my daughter. I don't know what I was thinking." His words deeply moved me. "Jack, we were both confused at that moment. The important thing is that we made the right decision." He looked at me with a mixture of gratitude and affection. "You're an amazing woman. Emily. Sarah is lucky to have you as a mother, and I'm lucky to have you as a mother-in-law and friend." I felt a lump in my throat. "Thank you, Jack. You are my family, and I love you all." At that moment, Lily stirred in his arms, opening her little eyes. She looked at both of us and smiled. That toothless smile that melted our hearts. "I think someone wants to go to her grandmother," said Jack, gently passing Lily to me. As I held my granddaughter in my arms, I felt a peace and happiness that I hadn't experienced in a long time. I looked at Jack and saw in his eyes the same love and devotion that I felt. In that instant, I knew everything would be all right. The following months and years brought their own challenges and joys. Sarah and Jack had their ups and downs, like any couple, but they managed to overcome them together. I found my place as a grandmother, enjoying every moment with Lily and supporting my daughter in her role as a mother. Sometimes, on quiet nights, I remembered those moments of confusion and temptation with Jack. But I no longer felt regret or longing. Instead, I felt gratitude for having had the strength to do the right thing. Life isn't always easy or perfect. Sometimes we face difficult decisions, temptations that threaten to destroy everything we love. But in the end, it's love, true love based on respect and sacrifice, that guides us to the right path. As I watch my family gathered in the garden, celebrating Lily's 5th birthday, I can't help but smile. Sarah and Jack are more in love than ever, and my granddaughter is growing up happy and loved. And me, I've found a peace and happiness that I never thought possible. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is giving up what we think we desire for the good of those we love. And in that sacrifice, we find a deeper and more lasting happiness than we ever could have imagined.